Can you hear me? If I don't have to stand there? Maria said I was supposed to jump off the stage, but I think I'm going to hurt myself. So I'm going to use the stairs. If I can get Maria out of the way. But I realized when I was up here that this room has got this huge stage all around you, and that I could actually go behind you and talk if I wanted to. And then I could just read my notes and you wouldn't even know it. But I thought Terry's story was pretty interesting about the Internet of Things. I was in Idaho last week, and I got a message from home that the house was too cold and that the heat needed to turn up. And so I tapped on my smartphone, and I was able to connect to my thermostat and raise the heat in the house. And that probably tells you two things. One is I've got some sort of a smart thermostat, right? That was my Christmas present to myself. But two, the people in my house don't know how to use it, right? So, I tapped the temperature up and made everybody happy at home. And it really makes you think, though, we have had a huge progression in the amount of technology that we're accepting into our lives and our homes. I was talking with somebody just before the meeting. We were talking about the advance of computers and how far they've come. And back when I was in college, like undergraduate maybe a couple years ago, you don't believe me. I can't believe that. My credibility is shattered. So we had this computer lab, and I was the guy who set it up, and it was our first computer lab at the university. And we had these things we called the IBM clones, and they really did nothing at all. But people stood in line to do nothing at all on them, and they grew and grew, and we figured out how to do things with them. And now today, many of us don't even bother with our home computer. We just use our phone. So things were really moving along. When I started my first job a couple years ago, remember, and I go look on the shelves. Somebody left some efficiency books on the shelves, and they were from the Carter administration, about 1974, issued from good old Department of Energy. Anybody heard of Department of Energy? Yeah, I worked there. And these books were about turning off lights and setting back thermostats and making it cold and making it dark. And I thought, boy, efficiency has really come a long way. Today, when we do an efficiency project, we expect that the building will be better than it was before, not worse. We have a high expectation for our technology today. So today, I run the Renewable Power Office in the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. And I've got my other colleague, Mark Johnson, is going to be our last speaker today, also is in that same office, running the Advanced Manufacturing Office. So when we look at renewable power, we've also seen the same types of progressions occur where we've really seen a great growth in the possibilities of renewable power. Now, this is an efficiency event, and so Maria has the thumb screws on me. She said, I'm supposed to tell you that we always think of efficiency first and then renewables second. So we want to work as hard as we can to get the efficiency of our buildings where they need to be. And then after we've done that, and we've wrung out what we think is cost-effective there, we move over to renewables. Now, there are obviously always exceptions to the rule, but in general, that's the approach I also advocate, that we try to get ourselves efficient, and then we go to renewables. But the reality is many of the renewable power that I'll talk about today aren't really something you'd install in your building. They're more of something the utility would probably install. There are distributed energy resources, solar panels, small wind turbines, geothermal heat for buildings that you can apply locally, but most of the technologies that I'll talk about today are really for very large installations. So one of the areas that we like to have is wind power. Wind power is the fourth largest energy source today in the United States for electricity. It has 82 gigawatts installed, but what we're looking at with wind power is how to make more power available out of the wind we have. What we find is that our turbines are about 80 meters tall, so that's 8 times 3, 240 feet, so pretty tall things. We want to take them up to 140 feet, 140 meters, I'm sorry, 140 meters. When we take them up to 140 meters, we call it tall wind. And the reason we want to do that is that the higher you get, the more prevalent the winds are. Right now, the southeast part of the United States is not a great wind resource, but if we can get up to the tall wind level, we can have resources in the southeast United States and even stronger ones in the areas that have wind today. But in order to get a tower that tall, manufacturing is a challenge. We just don't have roads that can transport something that's 140 meters long. That's a pretty long thing. So we look at different ways of either creating the small parts and bolting them together at the site, or even doing on-site manufacturing is a possibility for that. And then we get to solar power. We're all familiar with solar photovoltaics, those panels we put on our roofs and so forth. But another type of solar power that I think has potential is called concentrating solar power, or CSP. In concentrating solar power, you have a whole array over acres of mirrors that point the sun rays up to a common point and heats a liquid or a fluid. The early ones heated water and made steam, just like power plants would do today. But now we're looking at molten salts that go up to like 350 degrees Celsius. And we're looking at also something called falling particles, which is a material that would absorb the heat. And why we want to do that is take these to higher temperatures is that these new materials can store the heat and release the energy over time, meaning that solar power would be able to deliver energy both day and night. Also, what we have is our water power. Hydropower is one of our oldest renewable power today, and it serves about 7% of the nation, 7% of the nation's electricity needs. And the reality is that we probably could get almost twice that based on our HydroVision report that was completed last year. So hydropower is a good, strong a good, strong source today, but also within water power, we have something called marine hydrokinetic. We call it MHK. Marine hydrokinetic is trying to use the wave energy that we have along our shores. And it turns out that's a great place for us to be able to generate electricity because many of our residents live along the shores. And right now, it looks like we have a technical potential of about 1,500 terawatt hours of electricity production from marine hydrokinetic, which we think might serve about 100 million homes. So the opportunities across renewable power also are new and exciting as we get some of the new technologies available and some of the ways we're trying to use that power. Some of the things I think we have to figure out with our renewable power is how we best mesh the building use with the renewable power source. It's a new type of source, and we're probably going to have to use it in a different way than we've used it in the past. Just like the old efficiency, we started out and we didn't understand efficiency, and we did some things I think that were kind of punitive in efficiency. Now that we understand it, it turns out that it's actually better with efficiency than it was without. I believe our future with renewables will be better than without.